Recently, Lookism has been going absolutely crazy. The fanbase can't believe everything that just occurred. Gun vs Goo, UI Big Daniel fighting again, with the biggest reveals about the second body we've ever gotten, the death of a key character, at least possibly, and the arrival of the next monster that will shake up the story. The first son of Gaprion Kim, the King of Seoul, and now Drip Overlord, GK Kim. Therefore, today I'll be breaking down the greatness of Gun, the Goo situation from a fandom perspective, and much more. Welcome to the Mysterious Weeb YouTube channel, a place that's increasing its output of Lookism content, so make sure you're subscribed and share the content with any fellow Lookism enjoyers. So last time we had Gun pretty much solo the second generation, with the best performance we've ever seen in the entire series so far, getting approached by Goo, leading many to think this may be the end of Gun. Therefore, let's break down their fight now. Throughout the entire Lookism story, over 500 chapters now, a large portion of the fanbase has been waiting for this fight. We've gotten hints throughout the story that they've faced one another many times, particularly with this moment that is once again brought up, probably their main fight before this one right now, with many people arguing which one is stronger, Gun or Goo, with there being pretty solid arguments at one stage that Goo was the superior one, particularly when he had his sword out, something that got amplified more recently in the story, with Goo having some very impressive showings that highlight his monstrous nature. But leading up to this fight now, we had a few issues going in. The main one being how injured Gun was after completing his gauntlet, and of course, Goo already arriving with his sword, leading me to believe that Goo is going to low diff or mid difficulty defeat Gun. At least when looking at the narrative of these two, that would be the expected outcome considering Gun's injuries, but we were all absolutely wrong. For a reminder, recently we got all of Goo's secret friends revealed, now moving away from Charles Choi betraying him, with Gun being the most loyal person in this world to Elite, something that gets highlighted to an even more extreme degree shortly. But when it comes to the exchange, it starts out with Gun actually landing a few decent blows, focusing on preventing Goo from unleashing his sword, which is his most dangerous and aspect that would put Gun in danger. So if he's able to remove Goo from having the advantage in that regard, he'll be fine. But as a reminder, Goo isn't particularly weak in every aspect, being an absolute tank throughout the series and being able to overpower Gun claiming his sword again, leading us to get an exchange with weapons between the two, with Goo quickly overcoming that aspect, revealing that he's disappointed again due to Gun's injuries and the situation where they're meant to be fighting to the death, but of course, Gun is absolutely goated and still is giving the fight everything he has. Now this is where the big change occurred. Gun is told that James Lee went to kill Charles Choi and actually saw this almost occurring from the building above them, leading Gun to be distracted and Goo to land a direct slash on his neck, where we get a little bit of a flashback connection to Gun's father, who's going to play a major role in the future of the story without a doubt, and then it pretty much happens. Ultra Instinct Gun has arrived, a transformation or evolution you could say, where Goo is in trouble. Right away forcing the Sword Goon to go all out and prepare to kill Gun as soon as possible, where he receives quite a beating from Ultra Instinct Gun, highlighting that very well you could make an argument that Gun is indeed the strongest in the verse considering the performance we've seen him have over these around 2 months or chapters, even biting the blade off of Goo's sword, which is, you know, next level, smashing him through walls, forcing Goo to fight in a more so very dirty manner, using named attack with his twin blades, crazy art going everywhere, and then this attack known as Zero Sword, piercing through himself as an attempt to kill Gun by stabbing his sword into the heart, but the piece of the blade that was bitten off by Gun before, however he did that, was actually enough to prevent the blade from piercing or reaching reaching his heart, allowing Gun to land a direct and monstrous blow, defeating Gu, who went for this dirty cheap attack, and claiming victory. But again, that's not the end of it. With all that alone, that was enough for people to argue that Gun is simply above everyone else, but there's even more. He proceeds to fight Ultra Instinct Big Daniel as well, being able to exploit the weakness with Daniel's Ultra Instinct and win that fight as well after receiving many blows and crazy exchanges between these two. But there's a few key aspects of this fight I need to break down now. The way Big Daniel's Ultra Instinct works when he's unable to control himself is that he more so targets the strongest person close by, switching from fighting James Lee, which I'll be breaking down soon, to Ultra Instinct Gun, pretty much outright confirming that Ultra Instinct Gun may be stronger than James Lee, just 100% confirmation. And when it comes to the fight itself, as it progresses, we have pretty much Daniel winning the Ultra Instinct battle, resulting in Gun to gain conscious again and outright confirm that he couldn't control his Ultra Instinct, leading up to a possible evolution when he does return to the story, being able to exploit the key weakness of Daniel Park's Ultra Instinct, where he pretty much reaches the exact same level as the opponent he's fighting, regardless of how weak or strong they are, succeeding against Ultra Instinct Big Daniel due to this understanding of the weakness, and now looking like this after the endless gauntlet, having by far the best performance we've ever seen in Lookism, and will probably remain as such for the entire series at this point. I don't think this is going to be overcame considering the pure insanity of all this. The Gu fans are going absolutely mad. The Daniel fans are going absolutely crazy considering he honestly just defeated everyone and probably would have continued fighting James Lee if the situation allowed it and James Lee specifically wanted to, which probably would have resulted in his death if that actually did occur right after everything else. Which now brings us to what's next for Gun. After all these fights, we have him take the blame for Charles Choi, at least from the lore perspective, as the sole one who created the 4 crews, meaning Gu isn't at blame for any of that stuff legally. Therefore, Gun is likely to have his next prison arc, as he's already gone through one in the past, which will without a doubt result in his return at some point in the future. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, but Gun is not dead. He has a way to improve when it comes to controlling his own Ultra Instinct, so when that does happen, shit's gonna go absolutely crazy. But for now, Gun definitely needs a break, and being in prison is probably for the best. But apart from all that, let's talk a little bit about Daniel Park now, Daniel go over Charles Choi, bringing us to the final part where we go over the future of Lookism considering who just arrived. So we learned from Charles Choi why Daniel was given the second body. It's because he wanted to train him to counter James Lee, reminding us that he's one of the 10 geniuses he raised, but grew stronger and needed someone to more so keep him in check, which could be used to argue that others like Gu and Gun aren't strong enough to take down James Lee alone, which is up for debate, but from Elite's perspective you could argue that, and that's why Daniel exists with the second body, but also there's probably more to it as well that we don't exactly know. This is because Charles reveals that he never chose Daniel and that it was more so he fell victim to the choice, but before he reveals more, he asks Daniel to become one of his people as the counter to James Lee, which he was probably thinking about, but still we doesn't get a chance to continue this due to James Lee arriving, planning on killing Charles Choi, who after everything is done and dusted does actually occur, not in the specific way he and everyone else wanted, but that was the end of Charles Choi during this arc. We have Big Daniel, after getting knocked out, enter Ultra Instinct state, fight James Lee with a few exchanges, showing that James Lee is still very capable and should be regarded as a top tier, and probably considering the future of the story, now that Gun is probably out of the series for a little bit, he will be probably the big bad top of the verse alongside a few others I'll be talking about later. But now let's talk a little bit about Charles Choi. So let's call it his jump. Did not see that coming. It was low-key respectable, not giving all of his enemies what they wanted, going through all this trouble to overthrow and defeat him, wanting to humiliate him in front of everyone. But then bro's like, ah shit, unlucky boys, it's over, that's it. But there's still the theory that he also has a second body, which would make a lot of sense considering he's the one that, has resulted in his daughter and Daniel having second bodies. Him also having one is probably the case, and why he was willing to do this, to throw everyone off in the story where he does return with this big reveal at some later point. It's probably going to also be quite some time before we get something like that. Let me know your theories on that down below. But let's talk about the current Lookism. We have a little time skip, meaning we've passed this arc, this, gun or attempt to dethrone Charles Choi arc. From the world's perspective, Charles Choi is gone. Daniel is in his big body, enjoying the school life again, wanting, the peace to last for quite some time. We cut to Gu, who's, vibing, injured and pissed that Gun took the entire blame for the creation of the 4 crews. But more importantly, he has met Gin-tae Kim at the airport, where it looks like they're gonna have a face-off potentially, considering how the monster is looking at him. So who knows what's gonna happen next. The impact he's about to have in the story is probably going to be everlasting and unlike anything we've seen before. The last time we saw his fight in the past against the previous King of Seoul, it was probably one of the most brutal performances we've ever seen in Lookism, and his monstrous nature does have a lot of people arguing he is indeed the strongest in the verse currently, considering who his father is, his narrative right now, and just what's going to happen next. We still have Tom Lee, who we don't know what happened with that other situation, but moving forward, we have the return of Gun from prison, potential Charles Choi second body, James Lee and his probably forefront evolution in the story, Gu and what he's planning, and now Gin-tae Kim, who's gonna shock and pretty much destroy everything that's been established. Share the video around, shout out to these members, the absolute mad lads. Thanks for watching. Check out the official partner of the channel, Gamerstarts, with a 10% discount, link found in the description for all the amazing products on there. But that's it guys, peace.